And we are indeed on to episode number 2 of draft coverage from the CenterXFL. And I'm actually have the pleasure and privilege to be joined by one of the co-founders of the XFL. I've, of course, referred to it as the BFL because that's how I remember it. So I have David Harbacken on the phone with me. David, how's it going out there?
It's going great out here. Both happy with the way that it's running and with my personal pick.
Yeah, actually, we were discussing, not we, it was just me, obviously, on the first podcast talking about draft order and kind of like drafting strategies. That's actually kind of one of the things I was really interested in is kind of the mindset of a lot of guys. And I know off air we were kind of talking about the Takia Spike selection, which we'll get into in a moment. Take us through your picks. Take us through your mindset, what you were thinking about.
Well, I was basically just trying to shore up my defense. Last year, I've never been an offensive player. That's just not how I play. I'm not going to compete with these guys that are putting up 50 and 60 burgers all the time. It's just not going to happen. Like, even if you give me the best offensive players in the world, I don't play that style that's going to constantly get them open all the time. So I play ball control, defensive football. Hope for a turnover. Hope for, keep the games clean, get that little break at the end of the game. And that's how every one of my games is. Which is why, I a lot of times I'll give it up on a big play at the end. But I'm always in every game, and I never blow anybody out. So that's probably why I have no hair left. It's because all of my time has been spent in these just gut-wrenching, games like that you never know what's going to happen until the end. And so I wanted to shore up my defense, and I wanted to get people who were going to cause turnovers.
And on that subject of defense, sorry to cut you off, but looking at the picks, defensively, you go with Darrelle Revis, obviously, who's on the team as a protection pick. Then you've got Ndamukong Suh with the third round, and then you in rounds 5 and 6 go with James Harrison and Haloti Ngata. Obviously, turnovers is key, but what's also interesting is, Revis obviously allows you to basically take away almost half the field for a lot of these quarterbacks. And Harrison as probably as good as Patrick Willis is at the middle linebacker position, James Harrison is that at the left outside linebacker position. And Haloti Ngata is listed as a right end, but in a 3-4 is usually a defensive tackle, allows you to have some strength up front. So, your 4 defensive choices make a lot of sense. And, you're really shoring up. And it's funny because you're the Jets. You've got, you're starting off with a top 10 defense already. And it looks like you're just kind of shoring up the gaps to assure yourself being possibly the best, having, at least on paper, the best defense in the league.
Right, absolutely. And that was the thing. Our focus, we wanted to get everybody, we wanted to put really strong guys on the line. We wanted Ndamukong Suh to be able to, stop that middle run. Obviously, we wanted to keep Revis because, first of all, not only is he the best cornerback in the league, but he is the only player on my team that anybody is ever going to want. Nobody is going after, since linemen are ineligible and whatever else, maybe somebody might have wanted Manicold or something like that. But on my team, there is nobody else that anybody wants. And if they do want him, I can replace him. If you want Justin Keller, go waste a draft pick on Justin Keller.
Now, it's funny. It's funny you brought up Justin Keller because one of the things that's interesting about this draft is looking at teams that either have brought on an enhancement to a current person on the team. Dustin Keller is arguably a top 15. He's in the better half of pass catching tight ends. But now you get Jason Witten. So what's interesting is in this draft, obviously with only about 13 picks, no one's taking, Dustin Keller. So Keller stays on your team, but on top of that, you get Witten. So suddenly now you have a solid, up the middle passing game, which is basically when you look at the Patriots in the real NFL, is what got them partly to the Super Bowl this year. So I like the pick because it's one of those things where no one's going to take the existing player at that position, but now you've actually found a way to enhance it. It's like finding someone better than Darrelle Revis, which at the moment doesn't exist, but being able to shore that up now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to have, and that was the thing. Like, if somebody does want to go, take a pick on Dustin Keller, go for it. But nobody is going to do that because you have only 13 picks. I mean, 12 the kicker, and you are going to. You're not going to use it on somebody like that. I mean, like, that's not if you're picking a 50-man roster. Yeah, you might go after him, and I have to think about it differently. But if you have 13 picks, you don't want to spend it on him. And so yeah, that's exactly what we did. We wanted to have Jason Whitney upgraded, and then you know what, we can run into a tight end set now. That would be pretty good. And on defense, the whole thing, getting back to that was we wanted to shore up our line so that you can't run on us. We basically wanted to do everything we can to take away the run. And, and then, all right, that leads you to the passing game, and you have Darrell Reeves out there in the secondary, so it takes away half your field. Now you have one little place on the field that you could throw to. And that's what we went after. Go to that one little place, and to bring him over there to stand there, I could at least do something about that, and put some control in the game. And that's what we were going for in the draft on the defensive side.
Interesting question. Obviously I had the first pick, so I took Rodgers, because I wasn't going to see a pick till much later into the second round. Were you in that same boat? I mean, I could see you took Peyton Manning with that top pick, with the fifth pick of the draft. And obviously you're not going to be in that snake position. I mean, it'll come back to you pretty quickly. But was that the same mindset where if you didn't get the last pick of the round going into round two, were you kind of thinking, okay, what am I going to do? And just kind of get arguably one of the best players at any position, early on?
Well, the interesting thing is actually we had done a draft order selection before the one that was actually done, and the problem was that his name was not put in it, so we had to redo it. But my name was picked first, so I actually was originally the first draft, whatever. And at that same point, I thought, oh my God, I'm first. Who am I going to pick? And what I was thinking of doing was trading Nick, because I didn't have anybody overarching that I needed to have. And the thing is that once you had it, and you selected Aaron Rodgers, you kind of set the tone, because then you selected him, Miner selected Breeze, and suddenly, it looked like, all right, everybody's going to go for quarterbacks in this first round. I mean, obviously Adrian Peterson was selected, which was a great pick, and you needed him. But it looked like all the quarterbacks were going to go. And not that I felt like I needed a quarterback even. I mean, I joked for a long time, I'll take my Sanchez.
I like that.
That was my mantra going into the draft. I'll take my Sanchez. But, and then he took Brady. And then it was like, all right, well, really, there's only one or two good quarterbacks left. And, I've been testing with all these guys, and Manning was the only one that I could actually throw with anyway, really, that I felt somewhat comfortable with. I mean, I still could have been like, I'll take Sanchez at the end, but, I would pick somebody else, obviously, just to have above him, but, these teams that haven't spent their pick on a quarterback even yet, that gives them so much freedom, because there's three quarterbacks, basically to the left. I'd probably say Roethlisberger, Vic, and Eli Manning are still out there. So, you know what, they haven't used any of them on a quarterback yet. They can focus on everything else, and they're still going to get a pretty good quarterback anyway. So, I don't think that it's necessarily a bad strategy to wait on a quarterback.
Yeah, I can see that. It's interesting because, the quarterback so far, the last quarterback was Phillip Rivers in round 2. And it's interesting because right now the only teams that have selected a quarterback were the first 5 picks. The Raiders, Giants, Ravens, the Vikings, and you took, quarterbacks. The Rams, Patriots, and Eagles haven't. And what's interesting, obviously, about the Patriots is clearly they're going to need a quarterback because their only option is no longer on the table. The Eagles do have Vic right now, so maybe no one thinks about getting him. And I get this feeling that the Rams are thinking that they can play with Sam Bradford. He's the starting quarterback. I have no idea about his Madden rating, but he's good enough that when you surround him with, I mean, some of these weapons. I mean, right now the Rams are going to be playing with Calvin Johnson and Hakeem Nicks and Vernon Davis at the tight end position, so it makes a lot of sense. But it'll be interesting to see if in these later rounds they go that direction.